Hi, welcome to the Themes Overview at the 12D Model Tech Forum. As you go through the presentations over the next few days, you're going to see different menu layouts and different toolbar layouts and even different toolbar sizes and colours. And the themes are responsible for all of those variations, and so we thought it would be a good idea to go through those as early as possible. So the agenda for today. First up, we're going to give you a quick background before themes. Why themes? The 12D model themes themselves, theme files, and we're also going to take a quick look at a particular discipline theme while we're here. I'm Dylan Revel, I'm the Regional Sales Manager for 12D New Zealand. So first up is a bit of a background before themes, just really a bit of a timeline. In 12D you could customise your own toolbars in version 8, which was about 2007. Then in version 9 we gave you workspace files for saving your own toolbar layout favourites. In version 12, size inflation for the 12D model interface, i.e. you could make your icons larger or smaller. Custom menus was brought in version 14 in about 2018. So what themes are a culmination of all of this different many years development within 12D model to allow us to bring you themes and package those all together. One thing I do want to go through is the 12D model themes. Please don't be confused by other products' ideas of themes. It is not just a colour changing option, i.e. you're not just going to have a light or a dark theme, although somebody has actually suggested doing a Star Wars theme, which I've got to admit I'm quite interested in. What the 12D model themes are they're about switching the entire software interface, including all the menus, the toolbar layouts, and all the view options to a focused workflow and purpose. So why themes? Well, 12D model is incredibly comprehensive. We've got design and survey and water, BIM, and much more within the 12D model software itself. So you're probably talking about more than 4,000 options or functions inside 12D. And that's because it's one of the most complete civil software packages available. One thing we have taken on board though is new users can feel a little bit overwhelmed by all of these different choices that you get and all of these different functions inside 12D. The classic menus, which you guys are all used to, are pretty much structured by these major options, and they go in a vertical format. So like survey and design and water, and what you have fitting all of these functions into the interface and into that vertical field, it can go quite deep. Some users prefer toolbars to activate. So for each of those, selections of those functions, we've got toolbar options that you can launch from toolbars instead of launching from menus. But how do we keep the old menus and the old toolbars and try and fit in anything new? You know, new features mean more items to learn. So do we just keep creating more toolbars and more menu options, i.e. those vertical ones are going to get deeper? And we're going to have to slide those into those major main menu disciplines in the classic. So we had to have another look at it. The more items you've got, the longer it takes to look for, you're losing a little bit of efficiency. And efficiencies are all about workflow and processes. We asked ourselves, could we split 12D model into disciplines and specific workflows? But if we did, then the disciplines needed to be switched on the fly. So if you're working in, let's say, the roading area, and you're accessing all of those processes and workflows, and then you're going to go and do some water design, then you're going to need to be able to switch on the fly between these things so you can get access to that water workflow and processes. But what about the hardcore users who want to see everything all the time? We also had to accommodate for those people who are used to the way that 12D operates and they don't like change. So another thing we had to look at is if we're going to start going into these processes and specific workflows, do we need to do a refresh of the interface itself? 4K monitors and technologies are really becoming the norm, and you need to give people the flexibility to basically choose a size format that suits their monitor, their eyesight, and essentially their tastes. Now we had to think, do we keep the existing icons? There was probably greater than 2,000 icons within the 12D model install, and with these new features coming in, do we just try and make the icons look the same or slightly different. And we also had to think, what do these look like in a larger format if you are going to go to the 4K and upsize or choose a larger profile? And pretty much the answer to that is they didn't look very good. And we also had to ask ourselves, with this refresh, can we achieve a consistent theme within a theme? So you guys at a glance can basically get a real good idea of what particular discipline that you're working on. So the themes themselves. 12D model will ship with 9 pre-installed themes. The first one is the classic. This is for those people who don't like change and they want everything to look the same as it did before, the size profiles the same as it was before, and all the menu items exactly the same, but with just those new features slid in there. The standard theme, the menu structure is the same as the classic theme, but you will get the opportunity to have a look at or activate the new iconography, the new discipline toolbars and workspaces, and also you'll have the different size profiles, which I'll run through a little bit later. The design theme is all about those design functions inside 12D for your roading and your track and your earthworks and your alignments and super alignments, but trying to take it away from that vertical, very, very deep structure and put it into a really easy to navigate workflow. The survey theme, well, there's 2 survey themes. First up is survey. Now this is all about the surveying specific functionality within 12D and basically working in an office environment on a larger format. The water theme is all about the water options in 12D, and we've got all of the 3 waters, so those options we're putting more and more in, and there's new features added every single release, so we needed to have those in a coherent workflow as well. The 12D field icon is all about having a really clean and tidy and non-bulky format for when you look at working on tablets in the field or in a smaller format hardware. The CAD theme is all about CAD basically, and that's the discipline theme that I'll run through later on, but it's all about easy access and workflows to generating your CAD drafting. The BIM theme is all about BIM and objects and tri-meshes and reporting and inquiring on all of those data-rich attributes and 3D objects that are inside the 12D interface. And finally, we have a tin theme, and that's just reorganizing all of those functions, the many functions that you have for creating, editing, and manipulating and inquiring on tins within the 12D model interface. Okay, so how do we activate themes? Themes are activated 2 ways. You can activate them from a configuration at startup when you're choosing your environment file and your environment configuration, or you can switch them in session. And this is what I was talking about if you're working in some water disciplines and you want to flick over to the design discipline, you can do that in session very quickly within the 12D model interface itself. Now, theme files are binary. What does it mean by binary? Well, it means they're computer readable, but they're not human readable. So if you guys open up one of the ship theme files, it's going to look like a whole lot of gobbledygook. And the most important thing is you can't edit it. It's not that we don't trust you, it's probably because we don't trust you to break it. There's over 300 different interconnected references within each, all of the binary theme files. And what this means is, you can be in a large water format and flick across to a large roading format at the press of a button, and those references are really important. And for now, we want those to work as advertised, and so they can't be edited. Themes will load both a theme menu and a toolbar interface, workspace plus any other goodies that we want you to have. This is basically just the start of what we think themes can do for version 15, and there's probably a lot of scope to enhance on this. So what this means is when you load up a theme, it's going to change your toolbar layout, and any toolbars and workspaces that you've loaded will be overridden. The good news is you guys can then load your new or historical workspaces or company workspaces really quickly and easily. And I'll give more specifics or more detail about both the setting up your environment configurations and your workspace loading inside the further sessions. Now, every theme, excluding the classic theme, has 4 interface size profiles. So you can switch these size profiles over whenever you want. As I said, you can swap the size profiles at any time. Switching the themes retains the selected size profile. So if you've chosen the large profile and you're in the standard and you would like to switch over to the design, then it's going to load that same large profile, so you don't have to reactivate that size. We have different theme size profiles. Classic, which is your normal icons that you're used to looking at, and they're in a 16 pixel icon size. There's a small size profile, which is slightly larger, that's 20 pixels, and as I said earlier, that will load up all of the new iconography depending on which theme that you're in. There's a medium size profile, that's 24 pixels, that's a little bit larger, can still fit quite nicely on your larger monitors, and makes things a little bit easier to navigate. There's a large profile, which I'd say a lot of the existing 12D users probably wouldn't use because it's way too much of a change. But that really does allow you to really easily access and see any item inside the theme that you're currently working on. And there's an extra large, which is really quite big. And this is probably great if you've got, your 4K screens and you've got your text and stuff set to a smaller, maybe 100% or something like that in your Windows interface, and so those 16 or 20 pixel icons are just really impossible to see. That's especially like me if you're getting older and you need glasses. So with all of these different theme sizes or iconography sizes, we're going to have a lot of images. So all of the images for all of the toolbars are going to be managed in 5 folders. So in the shipped 12D version, in the setups images folder, you'll see there's going to be 5 folders which match those size profiles that have just gone through. And version 15 will load from multiple files. So basically, if you're in a large profile and you don't have a matching icon for that large profile, but it's in one of the smaller ones like the 16 by 16, 12D will still load that and upsize that as required. So existing users can just move all of their own custom historical toolbars into the 16 by 16 folder, and 12D will just load those on any size profile. As I say, it'll just upsize if required. And because we're going to be loading from multiple different locations, if you want to understand where it's getting these particular image files from, then in the output window, every time you activate a switch or load up a theme, it's going to give you a really detailed message in the output window as to what's happening with the theme, where things are loaded, and it'll also tell you if it can't find any particular toolbar images that it needs to load up that particular theme. So 12D model has approximately 2,000 or more images per size profile. So you're looking at 5 folders. All right, 5 times 2,000, basically what that equals is a hell of a lot of files to manage, ship, and install and copy over while you're running through an install. So what have we done on that one? Binary image atlas files allow us to take those 10,000 files and ship them all down to 5 files, which means massive time savings for your installs and your copying and your configurations themselves. So 12D will load both atlas and individual images. So all of our shipped iconography is going to be in the atlas files, but as we've said before, if you've got your individual images that for your toolbars, you don't have to worry about including those in the atlas file. It'll just load that, and it also takes precedence over the individual images before it loads the atlas. So you don't have to change your existing user toolbar images at all. It will just work how it's done before. Images will read using the standard search path, so i.e. it's going to take your your project and then your customer user, then your user, and then the setups folder as usual inside 12D. Now this is a bitmap representation of what an image atlas actually looks like. So you can see it's taken over 2,000 icons and it's put them all into one nicely arranged file. That 12D just needs to call up that one file instead of every individual image out of those 2,000. So it saves a lot of time. And then finally what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at a theme itself. In the Birds of Feather sessions, I'm going to show you a little bit more detail about the water and the design and the survey and the 12D field theme. But one that is kind of going to get missed out in the presentations is the CAD theme. So I thought we'd look a quick look at the CAD theme itself. Now, themes are all about efficiencies and workflow, making it easier to find things. And so if we have a look at a really simplified workflow for CAD, you import or you'd share some information in to the project. You would draw something, be it lines or text or symbols or fills or hatches or anything like that. Then you'd edit those things that you've drawn or you've brought in. You'd label them. You'd put something on a plan that says, edge of concrete or something like that, and then you'd plot them. So that's a really cut down, simplified workflow for CAD processes, but this will demonstrate our ideas behind the themes themselves. So first off, you got to load a theme, and what you're looking at here is that's the standard theme interface, and you can quickly go and select the CAD theme, and 12D will go and completely rebuild the interface, load up all the CAD options and the CAD toolbars, and then you can choose a size profile. So if you want to, have your small, medium, large, or extra larges, and that will fire up and change the interface to suit those size profiles that you've selected. And you can change the size profiles at any time. So if you don't like the medium, you want to go back to the small, it's just a simple matter of using those quick links up the top to resize your interface. And as I've said before, switching the theme will retain the current size profile. So if you're in the CAD large and you switch over to the water theme, it's going to load up the water large size profile. Now the workflow itself. Importing. Well, you're going to start off by importing. So that's really one of the first things that's inside the theme menu. You'll see that that's been rearranged and cut down, made a little bit more efficient. The items you're going to use most are going to be right there and easy, and you don't have to go looking for those in a very deep vertical menu structure. And then the other way you might import, rather than importing data, is sharing data. So that's been moved up from deep down in the project menu, right there as part of your workflow from left to right. And you can see that we've also rearranged that to make the most currently used items the first ones, and easier to navigate and easier to find. Then you draw something, and so whether that be drawing lines or symbols or leaders, that's all there right on the draw part of the theme, and it's been designed so you can find things in particular sub items within the CAD theme itself much easier. And then you'll edit something, and you'll see that the edit has been split into most common use items, like you probably edit text or edit a symbol, and then you've got your normal edit functions, move, copy, rotate, extend, and they're nice and easy to navigate and find on that top level. Now labeling in 12D, you've got many different items or many different options that you can label. You can label things manually, so like with leaders, for example, you'll see the leaders there. There's a lot of leader items that you may be used to inside 12D. They've been subcategorized into labeling or putting a leader on a string, a segment, a point, again, just to make it easier for existing users and new users to find those options. And then you might dimension something that's pretty much the same as the leaders, and then the label option, that's a brand new one. You've got a label option right on the submenu, which gives you really quick and easy access to all of those automated labeling functions inside 12D, like your label map files and your attribute property label files, and those different disparate things that were in the classic layout in different areas. If it's got to do with labeling something, then we've put it up on that label. And then finally, the last thing in a CAD workflow is you plot something. And the plot menu itself, working on the right hand side, that's again been rearranged for a little bit easier understanding, especially for new users, rather than PPF files that says, hey, I'm going to plot some plans or I'm going to plot some sections. And of course the multi-page plots, which is the way of the future for plotting inside 12D, is right up the top there and easy to access. So in summary, themes are a number of years' work. All of those different items that we brought you in those different earlier release versions inside 12D have all been sort of combined, and it's the culmination of all those different functions inside 12D with the themes. And as I did say, this is the very first version of themes. I'm sure that going forward we'll make it do even more efficient and clever things. Workflows and efficiencies. It's all about finding things easier, navigating easier, because if you can find things quicker, then you're going to get more work done, essentially. And it's also good for helping those new users so they don't get overwhelmed with all of the options inside 12D. We have themes that are discipline specific and size flexible, and those disciplines, there's a lot of thought gone in the background of those, and I will, as I say, give you a little bit more detail about those specific discipline ones in the birds of a feather sections. And there you go, more detail and specifics on incorporating those are in the birds of a feather sections. So we hope you enjoy the new look, and pretty much everything about efficiencies, making things faster, is beating that project clock. Thank you very much.